We continue our dialogue this week with Rob Roper, president of the Ethan Allen Institute, a policy think tank, and discuss how ordinary Vermonters can counter special interest groups with lots of dark money. So Rob, knowing that any opposition to climate orthodoxy, which I understand as nearly like a militant form of political activism, any opposition automatically marks you as a stupid and selfish denier of settled science. Knowing that you're up against that, what actionable steps can Vermonters take to push back?
Well, it's very difficult because there's a strong emotional component to a lot of these issues, and it really does break away from logic. And I'll say that that's on both sides. But what you really need to do is do your homework, understand the math, the policy, the science behind all these things, just be relentlessly rational about your approach to climate science. And the question you always have to ask is, okay, what does the science say this policy will accomplish?
Exactly.
That's the big question that never gets asked in any of the policy debates around. We need to have a carbon tax, for example. Well, okay, what happens if we put why do we need a carbon tax? Oh, because if we don't, then the Hurricane Irene will flood the rivers again, and there won't be any snow left on the mountains for ski and the maple trees. Okay, so if we implement a carbon tax, you're saying that the maple trees are going to be fine and the snow will remain on the mountains and we'll never have another extreme weather event? Oh, no.
Right. So
it won't actually solve that.
So I think a lot of people get caught up with two things. One is conflating weather events with climate as as a whole, and then the second, they get caught with this question, which is, do you believe in climate change or global warming or not? So what I've understood is, instead of getting trapped in that, just ask questions like you said. So if it's a policy, what is it accomplishing? So you should look at the positives and the negatives. Say, okay, because otherwise, if you don't frame it that way, then people just look at the positives and they don't look at the negatives. And then the second thing is to be specific. So if they're saying if the sea level rises, how much exactly is it going to rise by, and how much is the single-use ban on plastic bags going to stop the rise by, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's like you look at the bag thing. There's more CO2 involved in the other alternatives, the paper bags and the canvas bags. They create more CO2.
Right.
Right. So hey, wait a minute. I thought this was a priority, and now you're doing this over here. It doesn't jive. But you can fully believe in global warming and climate change, and you can even believe that it is largely anthropogenic in its nature. But
man-made.
Man-made. But we should really be asking the questions when we put forward a solution: what's the cost and what's the benefit?
Right.
And
exactly,
they're not big on answering those questions, and the media in Vermont does not ask them. They do not want to, because the answer is, well, this isn't going to do anything. It's going to have absolutely zero impact, but it's going to cost a lot of money. But that sort of undercuts the narrative that they want to perpetuate.
So when people talk about it, when ordinary Vermonters talk about it, they should reject the framework that is being pushed by the, let's say, local media and go by what you're saying, right?
Yeah, they don't even have to reject the framework. They just have to ask the question of what the benefit is going to be, and what's the cost. If it's going to totally undermine our economy, it's going to cause people to not be able to afford their heating fuel in the winter or the commute to get to work every day. Is that worth lowering the global temperature by the end of the century by a fragment of a fragment of a fragment of a degree?
Exactly.
And that's and people should be free to decide for themselves. Yeah, it's worth it. No, it's not.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.